Just as the anime began, we saw a guy fighting many warriors all by himself. He slashed and slashed until his enemies were all lying dead on the ground, and they weren't able to land a scratch on him. Even the captain of the 3rd unit of the Shinsengumi, Hajime Sato, also failed to kill him. Main character Kenshin Himura was stopped by a girl who accused him of being Hitokiri Badasai, someone who has been going on a killing spree. She decided to end it all tonight by arresting him, but he had no idea what she was talking about. She told him not to play dumb, since nobody else would walk around with a sword late at night. Completely ignoring the Sword Abolishment Act, she attacked him, but he acted weak and fell down to the ground. She was surprised that she took him down easily, but Kenshin told her that he's just a ruruni, meaning a swordman on a journey with no destination. Since he just arrived at the town, he had no clue about the man on a killing spree. She told him that even if he was a swordman, he was not allowed to carry a blade, but when she checked the blade, it was a sakabato, and you can't even kill someone with it, since there are no nicks at all on the reverse blade, nor any smell of blood or clouding from oil. It's as good as new. Suddenly, she heard the sound of the police, so she gave him back his sword, and immediately rushed to their location. Kenshin suspected that something was really going on. The police were killed brutally. It was all done by one man, the rumored Badasai. When the girl rushed to attack, but ended up getting injured, just as he was about to kill her, she was saved by Kenshin. Since the police were chasing relentlessly, he decided to run away by saying that he was the Himura Badasai of the Kamiya Kashinru, and people called him Hitokiri Badasai. When the girl was about to chase him, she was stopped by Kenshin, and he carried her on his shoulder, and her injury would get fatal if she was to pursue him while injured, so he left the scene immediately to avoid the police interrogation. They arrived at the girl's dojo, Kamiya Kashinru. They were a very small sword style to begin with, but they used to have about 10 students who were working together really hard. But 2 months ago, the mask guy suddenly started crossroad killings, and now all the students left, fearing the name Badasai, and nobody in town wants to even come close to her dojo. Even now, in the Meiji era, Hitokiri Badasai is still feared by people. She has no idea why he claims to be of the Kamiya Kashinru, and she had no idea if he really was the Badasai. So she decided to end his atrocity as soon as possible. Kenshin then told her that it'd be better if she didn't walk around at night anymore, since the man was more stronger than her. He told her that being able to acknowledge when others are stronger than yourself is part of being a swordman. He also told her that the pride of a sword style is not important enough as to risk her life to protect it. She told Kenshin that the Kamiya Kashinru is a sword style her father created in the Meiji era, after surviving the turbulence of the Bakumatsu era. Her father didn't approve of murderous swords, but an ambition of swords that give life, and he was giving in everything he has for 10 years, but even he was sent out of the Sena War as part of the Metropolitan Police's swordman squad, and he died in a place that was so distant from his own ideal. And the man claiming to be Hitokiri Badasai uses the name of Kamiya Kashinru, and has already caused over 10 injuries and fatalities. She told him that he won't understand the frustration she's feeling since he's merely a ruruni. Kenshin told her that she won't be able to do anything with her injured hands, and it's best for her to stay on the safe side, and that if she was unable to live her own life while seeking a life-giving sword would be very funny, and besides, her late father wouldn't wish his sword style to be protected at the cost of his daughter's life. He then left. Her servant then told her that she shouldn't have opened up to someone like Kenshi, since a ruruni is nothing more than a failure in life, and that she's too nice for her own good. A few days later, Kaoru met Kenshin while he was arrested by the police for disobeying the Sword Abolishment Act. Her servant then decided to settle it peacefully by bribing the police. The police then left saying it was out of respect for the old man. Kenshin thanked the man for his help. Kenshin asked her for an update about the Crossroad Killer case. She told him that she had leads of who the perpetrator might be. She told him that there is another swordsmanship dojo in the neighboring town. To be precise, it's a former dojo, which is now a hangout for gamblers and thugs. And a samurai swordsman took control 2 months ago, and the guy is said to be huge, close to 6.5 feet. It sounds really fishy since the crossroad killer started around 2 months ago too, by swordsman who is about the same height. The old man then decided to leave the conversation. In order to go prepare dinner, Kenshin asked Kaoru how she knew the old man. She told him that he's alive and servant, and it was right after her father passed away that she saw him lying on the street in front of her dojo, and she nursed him back to health. He gets worried for her, and he always told her to sell off the dojo and live in peace. She didn't even know his background, and she never asked. Kenshin told her that she's too carefree, but she told him that it's not surprising for anyone to have one or two tales of the past that they don't want to tell anyone about, and she could say the same about Kenshin. She then told him to come stay at her place, since he doesn't have money nor a place to stay, but Kenshin told her that he have an errand to run, and he would be back another day. As he was leaving, he thought about the dojo in the neighboring town, which he has been searching for. No wonder he couldn't find them. Later at night, Kenji went to the neighboring dojo. A guy then came out. Kenji told him that he was looking for the leader of the dojo, but the guy shouted out that the leader, Mr. Hiruma, wasn't around, and that he should come back later. Kenshin told him that he came knowing that their leader was the crossroad killer Bad Asai, and it seems that Kaoru's assumptions were correct. All the thugs in the dojo then came out and surround him in order to kill him. Back at the dojo, the old man eerily asked Kaoru when she plans to sell the dojo. He then brought out a transfer of land and building documents, and all completed paperwork, and all he needed was one stamp from her. With that, the land and estate will become his. Kaoru was very shocked when she saw the crossroad killer, Go-Hai Hermua, and he's the younger brother of the old man. The man wanted to take the dojo legally, but since she caught on to his brother's true identity, he had no choice but to use force. Since playing the role of a good-natured old man to gain trust went according to plan, since she's a sucker for things but really stubborn when it comes to swordmanship. So he had his brother to cause a commotion with crossroad killings to tarnish the name of her sword style, and using the Hitokiri Bad Asai name worked well to their favor, despite the facts that he's a legendary manslayer whose existence is dubious at best. And thanks to that, they got so far in just 2 months, and the value of the land around here would grow 5 or 6-fold. Thanks to the westernization policy, Hiruma here that her mission was life-giving sword. He then told her to save herself with it. They started fighting, but she was no match for him. He then dragged her by the collar, and they used her blood as a signature on the document. Kenshin then made a sudden appearance after he had killed all the thugs from the dojo. He also heard the entire story. Kenshin doesn't take a sword to be life-giving, but he take a sword as a weapon and swordmanship as a means of murder. No matter how one sugarcoat it, or has lofty ideas, he said that Kair talks a sweet, naive lie, spoken only by those who have never had blood on their hands, but in the face of such awful truth, he much prefer Kaoru's naive lie. He wished that her lie could become truth of the world. The thugs then rushed to attack Kenshin, but they were no match for him. With one swing, he takes down more than 4 thugs. He was using sword speed, speed of posture, and speed of reading one's opponent movements, making full use of every type of speed to simultaneously take down multiple opponents. With minimal movement, he then told them that the sword of Hitokiri Bad Asai is not that of Kamiya Kashin-ryu, but an ancient sword style with its root in the Sengoku era, and the sword style name is Hiten Mitsurugi-ryu, which excels in 1 versus many combat. And if it wasn't for his Sakabato sword, it would have been lethal. It's a murderous sword at godly speed, and he's the real Hitokiri Bad Asai. Hiruma then decided to attack him. Before he knew what was going on, Kenshi disappeared, and he one-shot him from above, taking his head straight down to the ground. Before he could even attack the old man, he had already fainted. He then tore the document. He apologized to Kaoru. He told her that he had no intention to fool or hide anything from her, but he would like not to talk about his past identity. As he was about to leave, she told him to assist her in bringing up the sword style up and running. Well, he accepted his offer. Since he's a bit tired of traveling, he decided to stay at her dojo for the time being. It's been 1 week since the crossroad killing case was resolved, but she was angry that none of her students had returned. Kenshin told her that it's because they're in the era of enlightenment. Once you leave, it'd be quite difficult to return. Kaoru lashed out at Kenshin that he's very irritating. Because of his age. Although he looks so young, but he's actually 28. She told him that he's lying about his age since he's way too young to be a previous imperialist. Kenshin then asked her if it would be alright if he was over 30. She doesn't want it either. Kenshin then told her that she's selfish. As they were walking, Kenshin told her not to fret, because the students would come back in due time. She was quite sad since she had no sparring partner. That's why she had to head out to an acquaintance dojo to practice, since Kenshin refused to spar with her. Kenshin told her that he couldn't get used to sparring with wooden sword. Suddenly, a boy ran over Kenshin, and Kaoru immediately grabbed the boy by his collar. She told Kenshin that the boy was a pickpocket, and he had stolen his wallet. The boy told Kaoru to leave her, and he called her an ugly hag. This made her angry, since people around always call her the swordmanship sweetheart. Kenshin told with the calm tone that there's nothing he can do about it if he was pickpocket. He then called the boy a kid and gave him back the wallet. He told him not to get caught next time, and as he was about to leave, the boy angrily threw back his wallet at him. He told Kenshin that he's not a kid and that he's a descendant of a Tokyo samurai, Yahiko Myojin, and that he hasn't sunk so low to be pitied by others. He told Kenshin that he simply played a prank on him. Since he got the nerve to be wearing a sword, Kenshin told him that he still had the guise of a kid, but his heart could stand its own ground, so he apologized for underestimating him. The boy then left. Kenshin was amused. Seeing how rowdy Tokyo was, Kaoru then asked him where he was before he came to Tokyo. He told her that he randomly moves here and there since he's a Rurouni. Kaoru was wondering why he spent his days as a Rurouni because most imperialists had long since abandoned their swords and have taken honorable duties with the Meiji government, abusing their authority. Kenshin realized that Kaoru wanted to ask him a question, but she remembered that everyone had one or two tales of the past that they don't want to tell anyone, so she didn't ask him any question again. Rather, she scolded him about his sword. She told him that he should have hidden it with something. Kenshin told her that as recent as 2 years ago, many people carried swords, and nobody really seems to care. She told him that there are a lot of officers in the area, and they would arrest him, even if it's a sakabato. He then told her that he would deal with it if it came to that. She told him that she'd be going to head out for practice, so she told Kenshin to go do the shopping for her. She told him to get some miso, salt and soy sauce. Kenshin then left. Suddenly, a carriage stopped. The man in the carriage asked Kaoru about the right road to go to the police station. She directed him to head to the end of the street and turn right at the boulevard road. The man came here since he heard that Himura Batasai was in the town. When Yahiko arrived, the thugs told him about his due payment. They thought he had the payment ready, but he didn't. He told them that he would get the payment ready by evening. He was then hit on the face by one of the thugs. He told Yahiko that he's worthless when he doesn't bring him money. He then told him that he'd drop by again in the evening and that he should get the money ready by then or else he would be beaten severely. Kaoru saw many people running towards somewhere. She then asked a guy what was going on. He told her that a cop was chasing after someone in violation of the Sword Abolishment Act, and that person is no other than Kenshin. The police were really tired chasing him. Even Yahiko was at the scene. He had no choice, so he decided to be calmly apprehended. Another part of the police force then arrived at the scene, and it was Lieutenant Yujiki. He told the other police that they could leave and his squad would take care of the rest. The guy told him that Kenshin doesn't show any intention of drawing his sword, and they have already surrounded him, which is why they don't need to trouble the sword-bearing police. Yujiki then hit him on his nose. Because a third-class officer dares to have an opinion against him, who is a Satsuma revolutionary warrior. He then points out his sword at Kenshin while telling him to draw out his sword. Kenshin told him that he doesn't have a sword, that he draws everywhere and anywhere, and in the first place, he doesn't carry a sword in order to brandish his strength. Suddenly, Kaoru arrived at the scene, and Yujiki then decided to attack Kaoru so that Kenshin would draw out his sword. He told Kenshin that he would slash her cloth apart and humiliate her with the next strike if he doesn't draw out his sword. He told Kenshin that with the permission to carry a sword, he can legally slay men since he's with the sword-bearing police. The civilians were all in disagreement with Yujiki, and they were all insulting him, so he told his comrades to arrest every single one of them by applying the crime of resisting a government official, and he authorized the usage of sword. He also told them to slay anyone that resisted arrest. Kenshin drew out his sword, and he told Yujiki that against Kaoru or the townsfolk, not an inch of his blade will touch them, and he would take him on if he wants an opponent. Yujiki decided to kill him in the name of self-defense, since a swordman needs to slay a man every so often to keep his sense sharp. Another scene at the police chief's office. The man was telling the chief that he was busy with the aftermath of the Seinan War. That's why he couldn't visit until today. He told the chief that Kenshin was a man who had never wielded an evil sword, although he had slain enough people to be called Hitokiri Badasai. Not once did he slay a man for his own selfish interests. It was all for Meiji, the new era. He is a hero who saved the lives of many revolutionary warriors. Without him, the revolution will never have succeeded. He wanted to find and welcome him as a high-ranking officer of his imperial ground troops. The chief told him that the perpetrator, who was disguising as Hitokiri Badasai, were dropped off in front of the station early in the morning, so he had no idea who apprehended them. But upon inquiry, the guys mentioned that the real Hitokiri Badasai got them. Well, the chief thought it was nonsense coming from untrustworthy bandits. Suddenly, a soldier rushed into the room. He told them that Yujiki had caused another trouble. The man had never heard about the sword-bearing police. The chief told him that it's a squad created through orders from the higher-up to deal with the current incident. But they're all ruffians, and their captain was from the Satsuma, and he's also an imperialist, and he's a bit too much to handle. Imperialists were generally categorized into 5 groups, based on where they were born: Satsuma, Choshu, Tosa, Hizen, and others, such as Mito and Fukuoka. Among them, Satsuma and Choshu long served as 2 great factions of the Meiji government, as this time, Satsuma authority in the police and Choshu authority in the military was absolute, and someone from Satsuma is a revolutionary warrior, and the chief can't do anything about his impudence. The guy told the chief that he has been defeated just by 1 swordsman. The chief couldn't believe his ears, since the sword-bearing police are the elites of the station. The guy doesn't know the man either, but he told them that he was a soft-looking fellow, short and thin with red hair, and his swordmanship was lightning quick. And also, he have a huge cross-shaped scar on his left cheek. This really caught the attention of the other man. Back at the scene, all the police were all knocked down by Kenshin. Yujiki told him that he was going easy on him as he was outnumbered. All the remaining police then decided to attack him at once, but he was able to swiftly knock them all down, and the remaining person left was Yujiki. Kenshin told Yujiki that he would end things if he swore to the townsfolk that he won't be oppressive to them, and afterward, he can arrest him as he wish. But Yujiki refused, and he decided to attack Kenshin. He then used the most powerful sword in Satsuma, Jigen-ryu, known for not needing a second strike. The man said that Yujiki is a foolish man. Although Jigen-ryu is a powerful sword with no parallel, however, it would be useless while facing Kenshin's swordmanship, heightened Mitsurugi-ryu. Kenshin then knocked down Yujiki. This really surprised everyone since it was an amazing fight. The man told Kenshin that he had been looking for him for the past 10 years. The man's name is Yamagata. He's the general of the Kiheitai, the most powerful army of the revolution, and the current army general of the Meiji government, imperialist Aritomo Yamagata. He told Kenshin that many revolutionary warriors are eagerly waiting for his return, but Kenshin told him that he has no intent of serving honorably as someone who slays other people. Yamagata told him that it was a splendid piece of the Great Revolution, even though he killed. Indeed, some do show disdain and call him a manslayer, and those that do, he decided to force them to yield as government officials. Kenshin told him that egotism of that nature is what led people like Yujiki to do whatever they want. He told him that they didn't take their sword and fought for honorable duty as a government official or for power, but to create and protect a world where people can live happily. He then bid the man farewell. The chief told Yamada that he won't charge Kenshin for any crime since the police were all at fault. However, with the imposter case, He was under the assumption that Hitokiri Batasai was an evil person. And now that he has seen him in person, the real one is indeed a lot different. Kaoru finally understood a little bit about why Kenshin was a Rurouni. He wanted to be unhindered by anything, and to freely protect people with his sword. He lives with the flow. That's why he's a wanderer.